thank you for introducing yourself. So I will move to the next slide. We'll start today's presentation. So as Mariana said, thank you so much everyone that joined us today. It's really a big pleasure of having you all here. My name is Thomas and I'm from the University of Essex Students Union Volunteering Manager. I'm going to walk through our little story about student-led projects. However, the type of this presentation is a workshop, so please get interactive. Please engage with each other, engage with me as well. So if you have any questions, there's time at any point to ask those as well. So just going to the little agenda. So we'll start with the house rules, or as usually people refer these days as like our digital room rules, just to make sure that the experience is as enjoyable and as great as possible. We'll start with a little story. We'll have two group workshops during today's session, and then we'll conclude. So hopefully we'll be done definitely on time. I usually overrun the sessions, but now I'm getting much better in those. So I should be on time. If not, there's some features in Zoom where you can tell me that I need to go faster or go slower, which I will introduce in a second. So to begin with some house rules, so please raise your hand if you have a question or if you want to ask a question. Please, everyone should be muted at this point. But if you, please just don't unmute yourself and start talking because it might become quite messy. Probably most of you are now familiar with all those regulations in the digital rooms, but please raise your hand. There's a features under your tabs in the Zoom that are reactions. So you simply need to click on the reaction and raise your hand, and that should be absolutely fine. There's some non-verbal communication features, as you can see here. So under the attendance list, if you open attendance list, you should be able to see yes, no, go slow, go faster, or more reactions in there. So they just indication for the presenter that if I ask a question, I might ask you to vote for that. So I will be able to see how many people are saying yes or no to particular things. But also it's very good indication if you feel that I'm talking too fast or I'm going just way too slow, okay? So please use those features. I will keep an eye on them, because it will just help to facilitate and make the experience better as well. As I said previously, this style is a workshop, so it's not like a presentation when just throwing a lot of information to you. Please get engaging, please get active, please raise your hands, please have the discussions going. Yes, we'll have some group work, we'll have some discussions that I design, but please do get engaged while I'm talking because it should be informal. We are a nice bunch of people, so please interact with us. We'll have one break. Again, I will ask to vote for the break if you want to have one, but that will come later. Roles of attendees. Every single workshop presentation, I always give someone a role to do something. So I won't be able to check the chat while I'm presenting, so I will need someone to raise their hand when they see that there is a question for the presenter in the chat room. So now I will do a very sort of scary thing. I will ask who wants to be the person to check the chat if there's anyone. Oh, I can see that someone thumbed up. Aisha, would you mind being then a volunteer to having a look at the chat and letting me know if someone is saying something?
No problem, but I was actually giving a thumbs up to your previous conversation. But no problem. I will do that. I will put an eye. No problem.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Aisha. So you will be my assistant for today then. So if there is a question for me, please give me a reaction so I would be able to see that. And thank you very much for that. I will mute you for now if you don't mind, okay? Just
okay, no problem.
Running smoothly. Lovely. So, and then some other little tasks for you all guys. I know that these presentations can get boring. We all participated probably in one or even more webinars, and we know that sometimes the attention might decrease and things like that. It's absolutely normal. If you need a break yourself, please do not hesitate just to go and do whatever. If you're on the way and you're traveling and you're still listening, that's great. If you want some exercises, you can track for your own benefit the number of advantages or disadvantages I'm giving throughout the session, just to get yourself engaging with it, okay? As I said, we are not the students, but we lose the focus and we all experience this. So just give yourself a little exercise throughout the presentation, so hopefully it won't get too boring or too repetitive as well. So I won't keep you on the house rules, and I will start the presentation with some statistics. So for easier integration or understanding and how of how you can relate to our hopefully to our sort of programs or the way we're working, I thought that it would be nice to share some of our statistics that we do have at our university. Oh, Cara, I love your cat. Sorry, just I'm using two screens, so I'm able to see what people are doing as well. So it's like, oh, that's lovely. I'm so sorry. As you can see, I'm quite informal as well. So if I go talking about something else, please do let me know that as well, okay? So yeah, to start about the statistics, I thought it would be really useful to see how many students were engaged with this specific project, with this specific type of the project. So our student-led projects as a volunteering projects are called SVN regular projects. They're called so because we run them on the weekly basis, so they are quite regularly run. Last year we had 16 regular projects. This number varies on the yearly basis, and I will go into more details why and advantage or disadvantage having more or less projects of that. The average number of committee members is 5. What we usually introduce at Essex is that if you have one session, you will need at least 2 session leaders, and preferably from the different courses, because if you're from the same course and you can't attend one week, then hopefully the person from another course will be able, for obvious reasons that some people might be doing the same the course and they might have the same lecture. So obviously we don't want to have a session without a session leader. Then there's a project leader and there's a communication officer. So the role titles explains what they do. And we have a regular weekly volunteers. So that are the people that join our projects on the regular basis. However, they are not considered as committee members. They are regular volunteers that join the project. So the number of unique students, so what that's mean that those 454 students might be volunteering at like X number of different other projects and X number of different regular projects, but those are unique ones that were participated and they are not multiply calculated in other projects. Number of hours our student managed to log throughout the student-led projects or regular project last year was nearly 5,500. So it's quite a high number. However, oh, sorry about some security outlook things. So obviously we all know what happened at the end of the second term. So obviously the number should have been slightly higher, but it is what it is. We're still happy with the achievement. I think it's quite decent number, I would say. Number of unique students engaged in one-off projects, for example. So if you need explanation of the terminology I'm using, please do let me know as well, okay? But in one-off projects was 497. So as you can see, the number of one-off project volunteers were higher. However, if you compare the hours, it's almost as twice less compared with the regular project. So you can see that like, okay, one-off projects might give you a number of active volunteers higher, but in terms of hour, actually, if you manage to run well student-led projects, they can bring you a lot of hours because those sessions are on the regular basis and you don't need to worry about, let's say, weather conditions or other things as much. The total number of hours that Essex University logged last year was 31,000 hours. So I think that's quite impressive number. Obviously, you can compare with the sizes of university and things like that. For those who love comparing the size of the university, so last year we had 16,000 students, I believe. So that you can calculate now the averages per student, how many hours they could have completed. And the total number of unique volunteers is 1,215. That's the highest number we have ever had. So obviously, if you compare in terms of the hours, that's an amazing number. If you compare with the higher body of students, again, 16,000, obviously, I would like to see more students engaging in volunteering, but we know that unfortunately, that's not the case, and not it won't probably never be 100%, but obviously we're trying to increase this number every year, and we managed to do that. So this is like a little recap. I love acronyms. That's another sort of style of presentation that I do. So I will be using a few acronyms during this presentation. So how do we start a student-led project? So we know that there are sport clubs that usually have the committees and they are run by volunteers. We have societies that, again, are student-led projects. At Essex, we have volunteering projects that have nothing to do with the society or sport clubs. They are completely independent for that. They could work together, but we create our own project committee. We create our own project. So obviously, you should start a student story because a project, it's a student story or a willingness to achieve something. So you start with S because you need to select a method or how you can make that project happen, how you can enable students to make that project happen. We don't have any project that we thought, oh, it would be nice for students to do. Every single project that we run came from a student saying, I want to do that. And I think that's the biggest difference between other institutions that create the project and look for students. We don't create projects. All of those projects, ADS, come from the student. I will go into more details about that as well. Then you have a task, T. So you need to search for sessions or projects. You need to identify who will be doing that. Is that the student's responsibility? Is that the committee's responsibility? Or is that staff responsibility? The advantages and disadvantages being that, obviously for legal purpose, every single session or project needs to risk assess. It needs to have some volunteering agreements and things like that. However, as students might have some ideas of potential partnerships, and that's great. We welcome that. But at the same time, for example, schools are less likely to communicate with students, and we saw this approach at least here in Colchester. So if an email is coming from a student, they probably will be ignored, unfortunately. But if it comes from the department, and VTIM is quite widely known in Colchester area, sorry, I probably should have said that earlier where we are based. So if it comes from us, they're more likely to respond. I know that it's not the best, but it's just, you know, how much pressure schools have, so they're more likely to trust, let's say, the department that knows what they, well, at least we think what we are doing. We know what we're doing. Then it's really important that you start absorbing the project in the first or second month. So you never forget what your student is doing. You're up to speed what they're up to. So you need to create a little, it might be statistical in terms of the numbers, observation, or it could be just a conversation with the student to see the progress, to see the development of the sessions, to see the weekly projects. Reassurance is really, really important for a student. If something goes wrong, they need to understand that it's not their fault. Environment changes. The projects were canceled the second term. There was, well, I know that there's a lot, please don't like get mad about me, but there's no one's fault that we've got the pandemic all completely locked down. Yes, I know there's a lot of speculacy about that, but I will leave that alone. But it's no one's fault that we had to cancel our session. So it's not students' fault because, for example, the care homes were one of our first partners that closed all of the regular projects. So students came to us and said, oh, what did we do wrong? And obviously it wasn't their fault. And if something goes wrong, students need to understand that we'll be in their field. So obviously if they're not, it's not their fault, but let's say a partner is blaming them, we'll always be supporting them until we understand what actually has happened. So it's really important that student understands that every single department that works with student is working for them and not against them, if that makes sense. So that actually students know that you are there to support. And also be flexible for changes. So I said that every single project comes from a student, but then we're thinking about the future of this project, how we can make sure that this project doesn't just phase out in the background. So once you start recruiting a committee for a new year, you need to understand that yes, there will be some changes because every single individual that comes with new ideas, comes with new ways of working, and that's good. However, I know that's very difficult, especially in volunteering, to say no for volunteers, especially when they're so enthusiastic. But for better approach and for better outcome is always good to have a strong no when it's needed. So as an example, I could give in our work experience. So we had two projects that were very similar: sustainability project and conservation project. Yes, conservation might be more marine life based elements and things like that, but we have those two slightly similar but in the way different projects. And last year, the previous academic year, sustainability project wasn't as popular. Last year we joined them and we made conservation and sustainability project, and we managed to fix the issue. So yes, we said yes at the very beginning, but then when you see that, okay, the resources or the management is not going as the plan, or just simply there's no interest in that project, maybe merging two similar projects might solve your situation. And we did that. So now we hope we found that golden middle that actually 15, 16 regular projects or our student-led projects works best for us. We used to have 24. Our record used to be 27 projects, but to be fair, that was way too much, at least for our university. They really let's say we used to have photography and movie club. Now it's the same thing because we realize that photography and movie could be related and students are more likely to engage in the common project rather than having those two separate ones. You just find that common ground, what works best for you in this area. So I will go now to slightly about how you can start the project, or the way we are starting the project and how we're asking students to come with the idea. So nowadays, there's so many different ways of online platforms, of the digital means on how students can do that. Obviously, if you're doing that, let's say via survey approach platforms, that's fine. If you're doing that via email, that's fine. But what is the most important, what we see, like increasing number of volunteers as well, if you have a personal contact, and a personal contact, I mean in-person communication after the submission. So whatever way of submitting the initial form of the project you choose, you should have arranged a meeting or at least a phone conversation, because I know that some people just email them saying, yeah, that's all fine, okay, that's what we're doing, and they never actually meet the person that requested that. I know that due to the staff capacity and other issues, let's say, it might not be possible. However, if you manage to find at least 5 minutes on the phone for that student, the outcome is much better, because they have that sort of sense that, okay, actually someone is really paying attention, someone is really interested in what we're doing. Make sure that you always follow up the email, make sure that you always send the follow-up and actions that you promised, because if you forget or miss the deadline, it might go not that well, because if you didn't miss your deadline, students again not assume that they will see that you are serious about what you're doing, that you're really interested. You said that you would do that and you did that. So make sure you always follow that up. Don't leave them without any homework as well. When they come to you and you might have that personal, let's say in-person one-to-one meeting with a student, make sure that you give some actions for yourself and for students. So it might be giving them to find a new partnership. It might be the thing that, okay, you know what, think about the promotion, think about some flyers, can you send me some designs? So it's really important that you just don't leave them, oh yeah, that's a great idea, leave it for me now, I will just contact some partnerships, see what we can do. Reaching out the sessions is probably one of the hardest things at Essex. We are offering free service, but unfortunately, schools are not as responsive as I said. So it might take sometimes a week, sometimes 2 months to find a session for some projects. So if you leave a student without any homework and you will just waiting for partners to respond to your email, student might even forget that they have that meeting. Yes, if they're passionate, enthusiastic, that's incredible. But it's always nice to have that homework, so at least you would not lose momentum in the project. And now we'll be going. I know that if I'm rushing, so please use those features in the Zoom, so you would slow me down. But there are two different ways of how, well, there are many different ways, but two main ways of how you can actually run a student-led project. So one way is having a committee, as I described already, or having one person on 3 people leading a project. So I will go to our first workshop that we'll be doing at the moment. So there will be 2 groups. I will just create an automatic allocation. So if you know each other, that's great. If not, please do a little introduction, but you will have only 5 minutes for the discussion. You will need to choose a presenter, and you will have, and the presenter afterwards will have 2 minutes to present the results or the outcome of the discussion, what happened. Feel free to use features as a whiteboard. There will also be an option to ask for the host to come in. So if you have any questions, please just use that feature and I will jump in your session. So group 1 will be, okay, now I will say group 1 and group 2. A few weeks ago, we had a webinar with the students, and actually that was a very good point. Every time you create the group work and you're dividing students to group A and group B, or like group 1 and group 2, they think that like, okay, A or 1 is more important than 2 or B, which is not the case, because we know we just division of the work groups. So the students' idea was like, why are you just not calling, okay, group that discuss committee and group that discuss one person lead, like not having those numeracy or literacy for your group works, because otherwise it might think that other groups' work is more important than the others. So that's just like the feedback that we found was quite like probably useful. So I won't be calling now the group A or group B. So the group that will be discussing community structure projects, please think about the potential roles, engagement, communication, time consuming, and the potential future. for one or two people's led project, think about the staff support. Will you need more staff support or less staff support without having a roles or specific roles for that kind of lead project? Again, time, regularity of the project. Are they going to be regular projects or just termly projects, weekly projects, whatever works for you? Again, future. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to create some breakout rooms, just trying to go. So I will stop sharing my screen. Well, I can just create breakout rooms with sharing the screen. Okay, so it will be 2 rooms. Oh, we have such a nice number, 20 people. So it will be 10 participants per room. I will give, once I click create rooms, you will be able to see, like you will get a notification saying, please join the room. So please do not join the room until I say who will be working on what structure of the project. And once you heard that, please click accept the invitation to the rooms, and then you'll be able to start your discussion. So now I've got the breakout room that will be discussing committee structure projects. So it is 2 Alexes, Amy, Cynthia, Gilly, Hannah, Cara, Lich, Lizzie, and Sarah. And another group that will be discussing 1 or 2 people-led projects will be Aisha, Joshua, Josanda, Cara, another Cara, Karenza, Luke, Mariana, Sharon, and Valerie. So please accept invitations now to the breakout rooms, and we'll come back after 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Everyone is being brought back now by force, by the Zoom power. So group that discuss committee structure projects, have you decided your leader? And if yes, can just leader unmute themselves and please start giving us the results or the outcome, what you have discussed in your meeting, please.
Okay, so yeah, my name's Cynthia. In terms of the committee structures, there were kind of 2 different ways that they were kind of delivered across our team. Some of them took the predefined roles from clubs and societies, and then some who had committees that were independent of clubs and societies. We said that you kind of best to have 2 or 3 fixed roles and then allow students to pick some other independent roles. So some of the key fixed roles we're thinking about is chair and health and safety officer to manage risks. And then some other projects will maybe have a media manager to be in control of marketing and so forth. And so let them have the independence. In terms of engagement and communication, we agree that it's really important to have that initial communication, but also to have regular consistency of checking in and reminding students that you're there for them and to keep them engaged and to offer them the opportunity to meet regularly with someone from the team. And also one team has introduced Microsoft Teams as a way of communicating and collaborating with the project leaders, so having different teams for each of the student-led projects. We didn't actually get to discuss time. We moved on to future and we didn't discuss time, but in terms of future, in terms of the continuity of projects, most of the teams tend to recruit the next team of project leaders and to maintain consistency. So the actual volunteering team will recruit the next team of project leaders, or committee members, I should say.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Cynthia. We will move to another group. Who is the speaker, please, and who wants to present the ideas?
So Josh from Bath. So we were talking about from experience that sometimes there's less staff support needed when there's 1 or 2 people leading, and it tends to be more student-led because we don't have to intervene as much. Whereas we found with committees, sometimes there's no one steps up to kind of take control, and things can kind of go around in circles sometimes or not progress. So I think although time is important, I know I said in the group that I don't mind giving more time to a group, but I feel that I overstep the student-led the more time I invest in some of the groups. So by having 1 or 2 project leads, we found that it's more student-led and sometimes more activity can happen because decisions can just be made rather than having to be a group discussion. Especially as students are getting busier, it's really hard for them to meet as committees and things like that, especially when there's different times and courses and stuff. In terms of the future, we didn't particularly talk about that, but I know that in Bath, our recruitment for project leaders is the same as what was just said for the committee. It's the SU staff team support that with, so V team itself in Bath have got a committee and they look after all the project leaders, so they support that recruitment process.
Lovely. Thank you very much, both. I hope you got, I got some very good ideas, to be honest, as well. So I hope everyone found it useful. I will move on now to the next slide, and it's actually a break time. However, as I said, I'm using a lot of Zoom features. So if you go under participants list, you should be able to see those annotations that I showed in the very first slide, one of the first slides. So would you like to have a 5-minute break just to quickly go to the toilet or refill your bottle of water and come back? So could you please vote on the annotations? So if yes or no. So I got 1 yes, 2 yeses so far. So Zoom calculates the number of people that's saying voting for that. Okay, I can see the number of yeses increasing. Oh yeah, okay. So let's have a 5 minutes break. So we'll come back strictly. I'm joking, not strictly, but please come. If everyone can come back at 4, well.
So we are part of the committee for the Einstein project. I'm the project lead.
And I'm the comms officer.
And we've both been working with the VT and it's been absolutely great.
I started volunteering in first year as a placement volunteer. At that point, I didn't realise I was going to make a regular project out of my placement, but I was just teaching disadvantaged learners every Sunday, preparing the sessions myself for a year.
I decided to volunteer for numbers because I'd always enjoyed maths as a child and I wanted to make the subject seem more approachable to other volunteers rather than something that was a bit boring and they couldn't get involved in.
It was an easy project for me to handle and teach the kids how to code, and also because I wanted to show the children how they can create stuff with code.
Refugee Teaching Program is a program where volunteers from the university go to the local refugee centre and help to teach English to refugees, but also other people who want to learn English at the centre.
Since primary school, I've always had a big interest for folding anything with paper. So when I came to uni and I looked through the regular projects, I realized that origami should be the one that's best suitable for me.
As an English and linguistics student with a passion of teaching and a passion of helping kids learn in general, I felt like there was no other project that was more suitable for me than teaching assistants.
It's actually been quite empowering realising that I have the choice to run a project and manage it, and my opinions were listened to. I had the support if I needed it, but most of the time it was very much trusting my instincts, and it was empowering and a really great experience.
Well, it got me a job because I started volunteering from second year and I got a job within the Students' Union because of this experience, and furthermore, now that I'm applying to new jobs, it has helped me a lot, and people do like the fact that I volunteered during my studies.
I mostly gained a lot of confidence. I became confident teaching a class, managing other people. They even did my reference for me for my next stage of my career.
It's definitely improved the way I communicate, even over just email. You find the way that you talk to people is different to face-to-face, but it's definitely improved.
And how do you think that will help you in the future?
I suppose that will help me with connections with different people and engaging with a wider range of people.
Or even in jobs in the future,
exactly,
when you're working.
I definitely had fun volunteering with the V team, and I feel like there was nothing more rewarding than seeing the kids grow to love you. From the first session when everyone would be a bit more shy, no one would know you, to the final session where the kids would approach you or they would want to work with you. I feel there's nothing more rewarding than seeing how much you've helped.
I really love, I think it's part of being a project lead is that you can provide kind of run and cover when people haven't turned up to sessions or they need an extra volunteer or someone needs a bit more support running their session.
Yeah.
It's really lovely to be able to go out and see how I can help someone develop how they deliver their sessions and how they can make their session deliver better, and see what I can take from how they deliver their sessions.
Be passionate, involve lots of your friends so you're not alone. But I think you'll find that if you're passionate about the project, you will ignite other people who are passionate with you, and this is key to making it work, and it definitely is a rewarding experience. So I'd say go for it.
Just don't doubt yourself. It may seem like a lot of commitment at the start, but this experience managing a project, being a part of B Team, you're only going to leave it knowing more about yourself, and it's only going to be beneficial. So don't doubt yourself. Be comfortable in your decisions and be comfortable to ask for help.
I think as well that being able to ask for help from the permanent staff is also really important, and knowing that they're there to support you and help you make your project the best that it can be.
So I hope you enjoyed our little promotional video that we used to encourage students to volunteer. These students came up with the idea to create a promotional video. So it wasn't us forcing them. They completely just said, we want to do that. So that just shows, you probably heard a few times saying, oh, I support, I trust, confidence, managing, responsibility. So that's the thing we're giving. So how we work, and I saw the Jazada put a question about how do you encourage people to come up with the ideas of the project. So I'm going to answer this question throughout this slide. I'm conscious that we should finish our conference. If you need to leave, please do so. If you don't leave, that's even better, because I would assume that you're enjoying or you're learning something new from the session. So how we do is, first of all, we're giving absolute control for students. Yes, there's some elements that we will need to oversee, such as safeguarding, such as risk management and things like that. However, we are trying to give as much control as possible. Probably the strongest and the most important thing is reassurance that we always have students back. As they said, you can trust the office, you can go there, you will never find them like offended. They can always help you, and they're there to advise you. Probably the latest meeting I ever had with a student was 7 p.m. just because committee couldn't find any other time. But because we work on the flexible pattern, I arranged that meeting during the Freshers Fair because I knew how important for them it was to get the project running. So sometimes you need to sacrifice a little bit your personal maybe life during the Freshers Week, as we probably a lot of us do in the higher education sector, but it just reassures students that you actually really want to help them to get engaged with that project. We absorb what is working and becoming a coach. So I think this is really important pattern, because a lot of people tend to go and say, oh, try that, try that. We trying to use coach management style. So there's a lot of free resources about coach management style. What does that mean? Instead of giving the answer for students, we're trying them to come up with the answer. So instead of saying, this is the idea, just go, or this is the template, go with it. We always say, okay, what do you think would work? What have you thought so far throughout? So trying to get the answer from a student rather than giving them the answers. Yes, it takes longer. However, the outcome is much stronger. I heard that, like, I agree that sometimes it can be confusions with the roles. It's difficult to get engaged. I think that's something that we manage. And if you said, okay, how did you do that? And I will share with you some resources, but there's no a role in the committee. It is we as a committee. What does that mean? That yes, your project leader, your communication leader, your session leader, but any of those roles can swap each other. So as we are delivering training, we used to have a very specific training for those 3 roles. But what we realized then, people just become separate for their roles. We don't do that anymore. All the trainings are delivered the same. Yes, it takes longer, slightly longer, because obviously there's slightly different responsibility elements still in there. However, we are confident that if project leader calls up sick or a session leader needs to do something, any member from the committee can jump in. So that really benefited us in terms of, like, now they see that, yes, I'm a committee from this specific project rather than a project leader of this specific project, if that makes sense. So that really, really helped us with the engagement. Give them trust that they can lead. So as I said, that similarly goes with the coaching. Don't make the decisions for them. Try to get that answer for them. And make the hobby, make the students, you go to the sports club to play football or basketball as a hobby, create the volunteering as a hobby. As you heard from one of our project leaders from Origami, she said, oh, well, holding paper was something I enjoy doing, and that's what we're trying to do. Biological science students probably like doing experiments. That's why they are going and doing chemical experiments with children in the high schools. The way we're engaging, and that's some resource, and then I will talk about, because I know that the next slide is coming up about the engagement slide. I just want to show you some resources that are available on our main webpage. Are you able to see the screen with the PDF format? Yeah, lovely. So here you can see, like, the role of each committee member. And and the way we work. Yes, there's some specific roles, as you can see here. However, there's a lot of shared interchangeable roles. So in other words, we sort of create the environment where students must work together, otherwise the project would collapse, which is a very disadvantage thing, because if one member is not doing very well, then it might ruin the whole project. But in this way, they give the sense that yes, they are actually a part of an important committee, and their role is as important as the project leader. If the session leader is not showing up, it's a failure for the whole project, not only for that person. And giving that sense that it's not a roles, but it is a committee, as I said, it's really, really important, and at least it benefits us. Then there's a week of a life in the project leader. So we are going to all of these sort of shortened version of the training materials with every single person in the committee during our training day, because then they're able to see that actually they're able to carry out project leaders roles or session leaders roles. So this is, again, really helps us. I won't go into much detail because all of that is available on our website if you want to have a look. If you're using them, please refer that it's our sources, because I don't want to have any copyrights violations or things like that. So please refer that. But you're more than welcome to use any of that resources. All of them are available on our website. But I'm just showing you the structure that students said that this really helped them to create the project and work on them. So all the resources are available at this web page. So essexstudent.com/volunteering/behelp. So if you want to find those forms, please feel free to do so. So daily life of student-led projects and our admin. So the pain in one area is transportation. On Wednesdays, we usually have 12 sessions, and if we receive only 2 calls from angry taxi drivers, we are happy. But usually Wednesday is like where we go for a drink after the work, because that's the most exhausting day. At least it used to be before new normal became a place. Attendance and session plans is like a chaser for the volunteers as well. They're exciting about the project, but they're not exciting to send this attendance sheet of project session plans, which are needed for our insurance purposes. Communications and funny story, that's another like very unique way. We always inviting students to come to the office and talk to us. They are aware that we might be answering the emails or be doing some other work, but they are invited to come to the office and tell us how the session went. So last year we were in the good position because we had 10 members of the team. So some people were able to obviously talk to a student for 5 minutes. But that just gives and shows them importance and gives us more trust, or gives them more reassurance that actually we're really interested in how they're doing. Also, the very good thing that I even like wrote a little note that I definitely need to say is we always ask students what we could do to make their life easier. So attendance and session plans, we used to have paper copy, we used to have Google Docs, but then GDPR came in place, and Google Docs, it's not GDPR compliant software, at least as far as we knew at that moment. That might have changed now, but we were trying to find the best way of how we can track attendance. And it came from my colleague, actually, the idea of using Slack. Students experiment that with their own committee, and now everyone was sending their attendance sheets. So from probably having 60% of attendance, well, not 60, actually 75% of attendance sheet, this year we've got 95% of attendance sheets. So you can see how the difference of changing method can actually really benefit. The same with the session plans. We used to email students and say, could you send your session plan, or could you upload just on the Google Drive? No one bothered then, but then on the way back from in the taxi, it's much easier to do that on the phone, on the Slack. Here you go, found another solution. Resource division is another thing that we're doing as an admin people behind that, and it involves the booking the stalls, booking the rooms and things like that. Obviously arranging sessions, as I said, it's sometimes very difficult arranging the sessions. So I would say that probably 99% of the sessions we in charge of organizing, and then students would go and deliver. We always welcome the students come up with the ideas about what they want to work with, but it's quite difficult from a student point of view to engage with the session. So that's why it's a lot of admin work goes around arranging those sessions. Promotion is a very, very big thing. And the most important fact, as you probably realized from my presentation, is actually being professionally informal, because formality never works in volunteering, at least from my 4 years experience now being in this area. Yes, you need to be formal in your stakeholder meetings with the white shirt and things like that. But with the student, no way that would work as well as with some partners. So the way how we actually get students engaged with this, and I'm answering now just under your question, is yes, it's difficult for students to get the idea of not the idea. It's difficult to make students come up with the project, and yearly we get 3-4 new projects ideas, which is not that bad. Yes, we built up now and up until like we had, as I said, the period 27 projects at some point, but it's difficult to encourage students to come with the idea. But what helped for us is basically saying the benefits of that, and I will go to the next slide that actually says that. So the outcome of what can actually it bring student for. So all of these things that student can get actually makes them to think about, oh, I want to create that project. So we have very good working relationship with our careers hub. So they're encouraging students from different courses to actually go and talk to us what they want to do and what they want to achieve from their course. So it gives them power to create something completely new. Every university has societies, every university has sport clubs, but we are completely different from that. Our roles do not match society roles. Well, project leader, yeah, they have presidents. So our roles are completely separate. You don't need to be, let's say, American to do our session or join, like, even those culture societies are not only for that specific culture, but most of them will be. Let's face the reality. But here you can be from any background and can create that. Also, we outline the benefits of what as coming to the V team could give them. So for example, okay, you don't need to worry about any policies, you won't need to worry about anything of that. And we just gave them the time scale of like, okay, to set up the project and agree with everything, it might take a week to research all of the safeguarding issues. Why would you spend a week when you can just come with us, talk to 15 minutes, talk about your idea, and we'll make that happen, because we already have all those things in places. We are absolutely transparent with our students. We're saying how much money we have, how much we'll be able to support their transportations, let's say. We are sharing how much time we spend on one idea or another, and how much time of us spending a day on work on that would save them in the long run. So we are absolutely being completely transparent and sharing this positive things that they can get out of communicating with us, and what it can create for them actually makes us successful, and they come up with the ideas. As I said, 3-4 projects a year might not be as many, but when you keep building up, that really ends up nicely. However, some disadvantages now of that is that there are some projects that need to be. Some stakeholders might say, okay, I'm giving you £5 grant, but I want you to have this project no matter what. So as I already used the example, can you join similar projects and maybe incorporate what the stakeholder is asking in some other projects? That's the way we're trying to approach that. Another way is change names. So Global Voices used to be the project where anyone from different nationality could come and deliver a session about their culture. We are one of the most international universities in the UK, so we have 135 nationalities in our campus, so it's a huge variety. And this project is just, I couldn't drop it, but it was not getting popularity with our partners whatsoever. Schools didn't want it. And we changed it. Well, actually, my colleague worked hard and changed and renamed them to World Explorers. The idea behind the project is absolutely the same. So from 0 sessions, we went to last year, 9 schools wanted to have World Explorers, but unfortunately, due to financial constraints, we were able to offer only 2 sessions. So it just shows how changing the name by having the same sort of idea or goal behind can actually really make that project more visible in terms of the partnerships. Don't be afraid to use sometimes different names for partners and sometimes different names for students. We need to understand that those two don't necessarily go hand by hand. Some might prefer having Global Voices, some might prefer having World Explorers. But if with the schools it works better, World Explorers, use that. Don't be afraid to like not have the same concept. Yes, it's a bit more difficult. It's really, for me, as being a bit OCD, it's like, no, we need to have the same name, but it doesn't work, unfortunately. We don't live in the perfect world. Also, see what happened in the past. As I said, we are in the very good position as we have 27 projects. So if a stakeholder asks something, we can always bring that project back because it has offer from a student. Yes, it's not running now for X variety reason, but we're always in the position to bring it back because the student has offered it. Maybe it was not relevant this year, but maybe it will become relevant next year. It's really important to have that background and keep track of your of your previous projects. Do not chase a ghost as well. So if you can't do anything, it's better to invest time in the project that's actually worth investing your time in. As I said, Global Voices was a dying project. Since the change of the name, here you go, it became a good. But if we spend half a year not having any engagement with that, that's just not the right way of actually using the resources. If a partner organization wants something specifically, but you don't have that on offer, don't be afraid to use an alternative project and talk to your audience, ask for the solution. Another thing that works well with our recruitment and sort of bringing students to the idea, what we do, I'm not saying this is the project that we want, we're saying this is the aim that was brought to us by the stakeholders. Does any of you guys want to take the lead on it? We honestly share literally the sentence, the way the stakeholders told us what they want to achieve. We put that statement to our students, and they come up with ideas on the projects. That's the way we approach. We're not creating them. We want that. Also talk to the societies of sport. So if a stakeholder requests a specific project or volunteering project that might be more relevant to one specific society or another sport club, we will engage with that sport club and say, would you be happy to take as your volunteering? Because every single of those, they still need to complete some sort of volunteering. Even though they're not directly engaged with V Team, they might be wanting to take this opportunity and still make the lead on. So that's the way we sort of overcome those musts. And I know that I'm overrun with the time, so I won't go in the second workshop because I don't want to overrun even more. I didn't feel the time, to be honest. It passed, and we still got 18 people, so only like 4 people dropped off, which is incredible. So I will open the floor now for the discussions and to have any questions. If not, please have a look at our future sessions. We have one this afternoon, and I know that Fiona, she's usually much better in the timekeeping, so it should end up on time. But I'm just opening a floor now for any discussions or questions that you might have about how we run things here, or maybe anything else. So floor is yours. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any question.
And also, if you don't feel comfortable in muting and you prefer to ask your questions just on the chat by writing, feel free to do that. What I've done in there, I mean, Thomas, do you want to leave your email if you prefer? Otherwise, I've left in the chat the Student Volunteering Network email, but also we are a network, and you can just email wiscf@groupspaces.com, which is in the chat as well. And the other thing that I was going to share that I didn't copy in there is our website. So I don't know if a lot of you know what we do and how you can get involved. And by getting involved, I mean, you can just share or you can just ask questions to everyone that it's a part of the network. And we're talking about the UK-wide network. So a lot of the questions I had and that I asked got answered by people in Scotland, in Manchester, and I'm actually a university based in London. So, you know, that's what the network is here for, and that's one of the main advantages of being a part of the network. It's a free network. All you have to do is sign up, and it's all good stuff coming your way. So yes, I'll shut up now. If you have any questions at all, please do ask Thomas, or please do ask in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you found some good things. Please send us a feedback. I know that don't put in the feedback you overrun. I already know that. So please write something like that. I don't know, maybe it was too quick, too soon. Maybe do a little bit less, because I know there was quite a lot of information. But I really wanted to actually show the case studies, what we're doing here, and hope that experience will benefit you guys in your field.
And thank you very much, Thomas.